After Han Zhuo seized power, he proclaimed himself Heavenly King, and moved the capital to Hantai, which is today's Shandong province. He ruled the nation with iron and blood. Former ministers were executed, loyal officials were exiled, and even the family of Hou Yi had no way to survive. He took Hou Yi's wife Chuanhu as his own, and appointed his two sons Jiao and Yi as left and right chancellors. From then on, the royal court was entirely controlled by Han Zhuo's family. According to the Bamboo Annals, Han Zhuo was extravagant, greedy, and violent, abandoning propriety and ancestral law. The feudal lords, seeing the situation, either fled into the mountains or pretended to submit while secretly watching. The former land of Xia became a wasteland of fear under his tyranny. Under Han Zhuo's rule, the world seemed peaceful, but the people suffered. He built grand palaces, waged wars north and south, and called himself the reborn Sage King. But natural disasters were frequent, and resentment spread among the people. He trusted sorcery and superstition. And whenever celestial anomalies appeared, he executed his ministers, accusing them of confusing heaven's will. His two sons, Jiao and Yi, became arrogant. One governed the eastern Yi, the other ruled over the 9 rivers. The brothers fought for power, and the court was filled with hidden unrest. This was the darkest period of the Xia Dynasty. Han Zhuo had usurped the throne, Hou Yi was dead, and the royal line was destroyed. The entire world seemed trapped in a long nightmare. But among the ruins, one spark still quietly burned. On the night Hou Yi stormed the palace, a loyal minister named Xian Wang risked his life to rescue Emperor Xiang's son Shao Kang, and fled with him through valleys, wastelands, and forests. They wandered westward, and finally found refuge in the land of the Yurung clan. The chieftain of Yurung, moved by their plight, took in the last surviving descendant of Xia. The young Shao Kang herded cattle and horses every day, but in his heart he never forgot who he was. He knew he was a descendant of the great Yu, the sole remaining heir of a lost destiny. He never forgot his ancestors' deeds in taming the floods, nor his hatred of Han Zhuo. When night fell, he often sat alone on the hillside, gazing toward the east, murmuring softly to himself, "Heaven's mandate is not broken. The Xia shall rise again." He was no longer a fugitive child, but a king in waiting, tempered by silence and hardship. As time passed, Han Zhuo's tyranny lasted 5 years. The people still lived in fear. But far away in the west, a young man was quietly growing. That man was Shao Kang, the great-grandson of Yu the Great. He was no longer the orphan in exile. Under the protection of the Yurung clan, he grew into adulthood. Each day he herded cattle, repaired canals, and built dikes, learning both how to live and how the rivers flowed. The chieftain of Yurung often sighed at his talent, saying, "This is no ordinary man. He will surely restore his kingdom." Shao Kang knew this deeply. He carried not only a bloodline but a destiny. Around 1880 BCE, Shao Kang was about 20 years old, young yet steadfast, his demeanor showing both royal resolve and the calm born of hardship. By this time, Han Zhuo's rule, though outwardly peaceful, was corrupt within. Shao Kang knew the moment for restoration was approaching. He understood he could not fight alone, so he began to seek allies. He heard that in the east the Yu clan was strong and virtuous, so he sent envoys to request an audience. The chieftain of Yu had long heard of the exiled heir of Xia. Learning that Shao Kang was of noble birth and upright character, he admired his virtue in adversity and said, "This man can be trusted with great matters." To show his sincerity, he gave his daughter to Shao Kang in marriage. A covenant of alliance was thus forged. The wedding was not luxurious but deeply solemn. By the river, both clans offered sacrifices to heaven and swore an oath to join hearts and restore the Xia. From that day on, Shao Kang was no longer a wandering herdsman, but a lord with soldiers, land, and allies. The record says, the Yu clan aided Shao Kang with 100 chariots and 3,000 soldiers. It was not only a marriage, but the first trumpet of Xia's revival. With the alliance secured, Shao Kang finally had a foundation. He was no longer a fugitive, but a leader who could command and plan. Around 1878 BCE, he established a new base in the Yu lands, training his troops and farming to sustain them. He drilled his men daily, teaching them himself how to drive chariots, form ranks, shoot arrows, and bear shields. His army was small, only 3,000 men, but they were disciplined and moved as one. They used fire as signal and drums as command, and swore, to restore Xia's destiny, never rest until victory. By then Han Zhuo's regime had begun to decay. He was old and foolish, and his two sons, Zhao and Yi, one ruling the east, the other the west, fought endlessly for power. The people were crushed by famine, conscription, and taxes. Whispers spread across the land. The mandate of Xia is not dead, heaven may soon change. That whisper, like a spark, began to burn across the suffering land. Shao Kang sensed it. The mandate of heaven was turning toward him. He sent envoys secretly back to the central plains to find those still loyal to Xia. Some had hidden in the mountains, some in cities, enduring humiliation for years, waiting for a sign. When they heard that the descendant of Xia still lives, they wept. They lit incense under the northern stars and swore, "We will follow Shao Kang and restore our land." By 1875 BCE, Shao Kang began to plan the restoration. He ordered craftsmen to forge weapons and asked Yu for chariots and supplies. To guard the west, he allied with Yu Rung. To block Han Zhuo's advance, he divided his army into three: one to meet the main enemy, one to strike the eastern Yi, and one to infiltrate the central plains to spread confusion. He personally wrote 8 characters on the camp gate: "Revere heaven, uphold justice, restore Xia, punish Zhuo." These became the army's creed. In 1873 BCE, the east wind rose. With the support of Yu and Yu Rung, Shao Kang raised his army. That day the sky was dark and still. Clad in his ancestral black robe, he offered incense and prayed toward the east. "Great ancestor Yu, if heaven's mandate still endures, let me restore the Xia and bring peace once more." The flames flickered, lighting his face. Then the drums thundered. The war for restoration began. Shao Kang sent his son Zhu as vanguard to attack Cheongsher, where Han Zhuo's arrogant son Jiao was stationed. Overconfident and unprepared, Jiao was taken by surprise. At night, Zhu's army advanced silently, their banners wrapped in cloth to hide the wind. When the moon disappeared behind the clouds, the horns sounded. Drums roared, fire blazed. Xia's army surged forward like a storm of fire. Jiao rushed out in panic, half-armored, and was cut down by Zhu himself. That night the flames lit the sky. The people knelt and wept, shouting, "The Xia lives again." The news reached Han Zhuo in Hantai. In fury he killed 3 messengers and ordered his remaining son Yi to march west with his army. But fate had already turned. In 1872 BCE, Shao Kang led his allied army from west to east. He sent Zhu ahead with light cavalry and led the main force along the 9 rivers, his chariots rolling toward Hantai. He knew this battle would decide everything. If he lost, Xia would perish forever. If he won, heaven's mandate would return. Standing upon his chariot with sword in hand, he proclaimed, "My ancestor Yu ruled heaven with virtue. I shall rule men with righteousness. If heaven aids me, the fire of Xia will never die." The soldiers roared in unison, echoing through the valleys. As Shao Kang's army entered the central plains, the people opened their gates in welcome. Tribes oppressed by Han Zhuo offered food and soldiers, crying, "The king of Xia has returned." The cry spread like a flood. Han Zhuo's army, though vast, had no spirit. His lords defected, and his generals betrayed him. When Shao Kang's banners reached Hantai, Han Zhuo stood upon the walls, pale and trembling. He murmured, "Heaven's will is not in human hands." In the spring of 1870 BCE, Shao Kang surrounded Hantai. After months of siege, arrows rained and flames consumed the city. With supplies gone, Han Zhuo's soldiers opened the gates and surrendered. Bound in chains, Han Zhuo was brought before Shao Kang. His face was gray, his body scarred, yet he laughed. "The strong take heaven's favor, the weak lose it. My defeat is not fate, it is power." Shao Kang looked at him and said slowly, "Heaven's justice may be slow, but it never fails. You usurped Xia's throne and plunged the world into chaos. Your punishment is righteousness, not revenge." The blade fell. Han Zhuo's head rolled into the dust, and Xia's soldiers cried out, "Heaven's mandate returns to Xia." In 1870 BCE, Han Zhuo was executed and the fires of war ended. The shattered 9 provinces saw dawn again. Shao Kang ascended the throne, and the nation rejoiced. The people offered incense to heaven and called him the Restorer King. But Shao Kang knew, true restoration did not end with victory. Killing is easy, ruling is hard. The central plains lay in ruins, rivers blocked, fields barren. Shao Kang knew, as you had known, that to rule the people one must first rule the waters. He personally led engineers to inspect the 9 rivers, reopened canals and cleared channels. Wherever he went, the people said, "The king walks and the waters live again." He measured the land, built embankments, and established royal farmlands between the sea and Luo rivers. As the basis for tribute, the records state, Shao Kang continued use work and governed through water. Floods subsided, people thrived, and the Xia's agriculture was rebuilt. Though peace was restored, the lords still hesitated. They remembered Tai Kang's neglect and Han Zhuo's cruelty. Shao Kang had to restore not only order but trust. He gathered ministers at Yangqing and re-established the three great ceremonies: court, assembly, council, and sacrifice to heaven. At court he proclaimed, "My forefathers ruled by virtue, I shall rule by ritual. If all lords keep to the rights, peace will endure." He revised the classics, organized the laws, and balanced virtue, ritual, and punishment. From then on, royal power again became the center of the world, governing by law and propriety, not by force. Shao Kang knew that a dynasty's strength lay not only in weapons and laws, but in the hearts of its people. He restored Xia's music and ceremonies, reviving those destroyed by Han Zhuo. At the spring and autumn sacrifices, he personally ascended the altar, playing the harp and dancing the song of Xia's virtue. Rituals returned, music rose, and civilization was reborn. The records say, the people sang of Shao Kang's virtue, saying, "Heaven restores Xia's destiny." Around 1850 BCE, Shao Kang grew old. He passed the throne to his eldest son Zhu, wise and cautious, who had fought beside him. Before his death, Shao Kang told his ministers, "The Xia mandate is fragile. It cannot be preserved in a single day. Rule with virtue as your root, law as your tool, and the people as your heart." When he closed his eyes, the morning bell of Yangqing rang through the mountains, as if sending off the soul of a king who restored his realm. The records say, Shao Kang's restoration revived the rites and music, and the world found peace. From Yu the Great's founding to Shao Kang's revival, the Xia dynasty endured a century of turmoil and renewal. From flood to fire, from ruin to unity, the people of Xia built the backbone of the first civilization with their blood and faith. After Shao Kang, the word restoration echoed for thousands of years. Whenever a dynasty fell, people said, "May it rise again as Shao Kang restored Xia." It was not only history, but a belief that even in the longest night, so long as virtue and will endure, light will always return.